rabbis of yesteryear. Now we're coming into the 18th of Shvat. It's going to mark the Hilula of a very great, famous rabbi from Tiberius. His name was Rabbi Ohaliav Ohana, Zecher Tzadik Libracha, a great rabbi who was born in the year 1892. It happened to have been. And I believe he passed away, sadly, at quite a young age on the 18th of Shvat in the year 1922. And he came from a great rabbinic auspices. I believe his father's name was Chaacham Shlomo Oxana. And that would have been in the year 1892 he was born. And I think we did mention about Shlomo Oxana before on various occasions before here inside the series. That's something I would definitely have to point out within regards to that. And and I think when he was young, he would actually learn under the auspices of his father. I think his father was a Kabbalist also and a Chacham. And they would move, I think, as it says, Reshit Torato lamad mepi aviv. Chacham mukod Shlomo Oxana shala maha'ir demanat b'Morocco. So I think they would actually come from there, actually originating from that specific area. Hu lamad betלמוד Torah mepi Rabo. Chacham Rafel Bibbas Hasheni. So he would actually learn under the auspice of famous Rabbi Rafel Bibbas Hasheni, who we spoke about, I think, on this series on various occasions for something that we have to point out. The Bibbas family was a great family in itself. I think of there were famous Rabbonim, and that's something that I think we did record at one stage in time within regards to him. We spoke about, I think in the past, Rabbi Yehuda Bibbas. So I'm not too sure how they were actually connected, but that will be actually very interesting. Now, Rabbi Yehuda Bibbas was one of the, let's say, forerunners of Zionism, you could say. So that is very, very interesting. So I'm not too sure where the connection was. He himself, Rabbi Yehuda Bibbas, I think, was born in the year 1780 and passed away in the year 1852. Actually, Yud Zayin Nisan was his Hilula, and I think he was one of his Talmudim. It happened to have been Rabbi Yehuda Alkali, famously enough, and he was very famous in Gibraltar, Livorno, Corfu, in Hebron, and various other places. So I'm not too sure how them two great rabbis were actually connected somehow, but they did have the same family names. So I would guess, possibly they were related. And he would also grow really under the Torah auspices among the great rabbis of Tiberius of its day. Now, I think it was around the year 1906. He was about 14 years of age. Sadly, his father passed away. And it was then in the year 1942, Taf Reish Ayin Daled, he would get married to Marat Esther, if I'm not mistaken, and Bitor Shel Chacham HaMukubal Machluf Shitrit. So he was the daughter from there. That's, once again, we did speak about Rab Machluf Shitrit here on this series. Also, not so long ago, Rab Machluf, I think, was born in the year 1867, and he passed away in 1941. Let's just say something about him for a minute. He was Machluf. He actually came and learned, I think, from his father, Rab Moshe Shitrit, and it was a very, very famous, I think, family in of itself. I think connected very much to Abu Chatzer family, if I'm not mistaken. And he would really, really excel within regards to his Torah studies, and I think he would originally go to Eretz Yisrael. I think in the year 1882, Rab Machluf did. He was, I think, a shluchah de Rabbanan, or would actually come across them, have correspondence with other rabbis over there. I think it was in 1885 when he would make Aliyah to the land of Israel, and lived also in Tiberius, and learned, I think, under the auspices of Rav David Abu, if I'm not mistaken, who was a very great rabbi of that point in time. I think he had a connection with Rav Yaakov Chai Zerichen, Rav Moshe Meir Chai Eliakim, Rav Yaakov Vaknin, and so on and so forth. I think in the year 1900, I think he would actually, with Rabbi Yaakov Chai Zerichen and Rav Aaron Halevi's Skali, the Yeshivat Keter Torah will actually be built under Rav Machluf Shitrit's auspices, which is absolutely phenomenal. Something we've mentioned about the Keter Yeshiva on various occasions here inside this series. He actually, I think 1914 for him itself was a pivotal, a difficult time period because of the First World War. And many people had to leave or to flee at that point in time to talk about. And I think he would, very, very interesting. I remember there was Kollel, and I think the area of the Rav Mebal Hanes that's actually based in Tiberius. I think there was a foundation of the yeshivat Meir Bat Ayin, if I'm not mistaken, in the year 1920. And I think in 1929 he was actually appointed a dayan in the city, which is a very prominent position, I think, along with Rabbi Yaakov Chai Zurichen over there at that point in time. And he himself, Rabbi Machluf Shitrit, passed away on the 8th of Elul and was buried in Tiberius. He was an author that would give out various different expoundations on the book of the Tanakh, the Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim. That's something that we very much have to point out over here. Okay, but we went on a bit of tangent. We're speaking about a few of the highlights of Rabbi Ohaliav Ohana's life, just a few. So he would learn under auspices of Rav Machluf Shitrit, and then he would learn in Talmud Torah of Rav Rafa'el Bibbas, who we just spoke about before. Then in 1915, Toch Milchamat Ha'olam Rishona, during the First World War, B'yotot Natin Tzarpati, Talo Hagzeira Shi'aved Ezrochato HaTzarpatit V'kibel Al Atzmo Nitinat Otimot Ne'et. So he would actually adopt that specific, let's just say, that nationality or that passport. V'yachol alav chovat hagiyus leftzava. Chacham Ahliyab Ohana ne'elatz livroch ma'ir Tiberia. Achar tolaot rabot hitzliach le'gia l'Haifa. He would be successful to actually move to Haifa. Yachad im achiv hatzeh Hacham Betzalel Ochana. So he would actually go together with his younger brother, Rav Betzalel Ochana, which is very interesting. Now, I'm not sure if we spoke much about Rav Betzalel before here on this series, but he was also seemingly a famous person of that specific point in time. He was younger. And Misham Hifligu Besfina Alexandria. They would actually go towards Alexandria by boat or by ship. Alexandria Chacham Ohaliav Ohana Abba Laporet Said. Sham Shimesh Karab Ad Siyum Hamilchama. So he'd go and support Said to actually work as a rabbi until the end of the First World War, I believe. And I think it was in the year 1919, that's Taf Reish Ein Tet, Im Siyuma Sultan Ottomani, Vechalet Hamandet, Habrisi, Eretz Yisrael. So the mandate, the British mandate at that point in time was in 1919. Hacham Ohaliav Ohana Chazal Eretz Yisrael, V'ishto Marat Esther. They would go together. Shenotra Levadat B'Tiberia, Kol Tkufah Milchama. And the article here, just using the Haimi website, Chacham Ahliyab Ohana Chazal Ilmed Talmud Torah Bibbas. So he'd go back to return to the Talmud Torah of Rabbi Bibbas. V'al av gilo hatzin roda ben chochmei ha'ir kechasid kadosh u'poresh. Hu nilcham et milchamata shel Torah u'macha b'pnei hanatziv ha'elyon al kilul Shabbat be'eretz Yisrael. Okay, so let's continue over here. So I think it says over here, Chacham Ohaliav Ohana nifta b'mivchar yamav. Obviously, he passed away at a very young age. It was on the 18th of Shvat in 1922. So we're talking about 104 years ago. Umanachato kavod be'ir Tiberia. Uta'ak Rabbito Masuda bat shana b'chetzi. So his daughter Masuda was, I think, 1.5. V'ishto mu'beret. Benot shenolad acha b'tirato nikra b'shmo Chaim Ohaliav Ohana. So I think while he passed away, sadly, there was another. Yeah, she was pregnant at that point in time, and the baby was born afterwards. Ohaliav Ohana he bet kuntras, so he would actually write a kuntras, if I'm not mistaken, and that was actually called Yishuv Yerachmanu, if I'm not mistaken. Al Tulat Sha'ava Al Nafsho. Et Barachma Tiberia. Ma'ad Midvrei Torato Yatzal or in the year Tafshin Pei, that's 2020, Acharei Tirato, Besefer Olei Sham, Biyad B'nei Mishpachto. So interesting, that was the name of that contrast over there. Friends, I'm going to take just a short 1-2 minute break. I'll be back in a minute and we will continue this episode over here. So just wait for 1 minute. Okay, thanks everyone for being patient over here. We're going to explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's writing from the specific writing over here from some of his teachings. That's what we will have to point out over there. So, so before he passed away around in the year 1922, it happened to have been, so 104 years ago. That's something that I'll very much have to point out over here. They actually call it Tafrish Pei Bet. That's what they say. He was, very interesting. So it's interesting. I think his son was born after he passed away, as I mentioned before, because his wife obviously was pregnant. And Nikra b'shmo Chaim Ahaliav Ohana. Very interesting. So so the Yeshuv Yerachmanu, if I'm not mistaken, that would actually come back, I think, at a later point in time, way later on, after he passed away. If I'm not mistaken, let's explore a few of the highlights. One, the teaching says, Melamed, Niflaot ma'asam, Shle'olam ha'torah notenet shlemut b'chalkeha. There's one teaching he gives over that comes from Drasha number Aleph in the book, if I'm not mistaken, Malat Hatfilin. And I would recommend everyone to look at another teaching. Melamed, Terem Yitziato Me'iro. Ba'al b'kesh rachamim al kivro shel aviv. So the importance with regards to visiting the grave of one's father, especially I think at the time of leaving a city, how important that actually is. That actually comes from Yeshuv Yerachmenu, I think on Amud Shin Tzadik Tet, if I'm not mistaken. Another teaching, Shemesiach Dato Belo Machshava B'Kavana Domet L'Ntiya Bli Mayim. Very important teaching there. That once again coming from Ohalei Sham. I think in Drasha Aleph, another teaching, Melamed Sa'ar Geloto Et Ne'elatz Librach Me'iro Hu Chatan Ben Shnato. That comes, I think, from the same area, around from Amud Shin Tzadik Tet. Then another teaching, Melamed Sha'asu Ledaber Bahem Sichat Chulin Av Shelo B'Sha'at Atfilah Valimud. This is Drasha Aleph from the Ohalei Shem, if I'm not mistaken, on topic of Malat Tfilin. Another teaching says, Melamed, Av shenidrasim begalot, yitnu pri chaim, the kol ba'i olam. This comes from, I think, Drasha Aleph once again, from Amud Taf Chet. And once again, this was printed in year 2020. So he was a famous rabbi of his time. Rabbi, we've spoken about here on various occasions before. Hakam Ohaliav Ohana. He passed away. He was approximately 30 years of age when he passed away. The famous rabbi was. So that's something that we have to point out. He was very much connected also to Mitzrayim. That's what we have to point out. He lived between 1892 to 1922. So we'd have a period of time in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, and there were many great rabbis actually from Egypt already that we've spoken about, especially during his time period. He lived right at the end of the 1800s. He was a time period of Rav Avram Chaim Na'eh. Was another rabbi his time, Rav Aaron Shiraki. And there was Rav Eliyahu Shmuel Hartom, if I'm not mistaken, also at that point in time from Egypt. Other great contemporaries, you could argue, was like Rabbi Dr. David Prato, if I'm not mistaken. He was born in 1882. A rabbi that was born slightly before, in 1868, was Rabbi Dr. Hillel Parchi. He was from Egypt also. And Rav David Moshe ben Torah was born, passed away in the year 1978. And there was other rabbis also from the Egyptian area. So that's at that stage in time. So that's very, very interesting to point out. Now, friends, we're a community here. We love exploring information within regards to famous rabbis of yesteryear. We happen to be speaking about a famous, quite well-known English, Tiberius-based rabbi, very, very famous one, who really made his mark. And if any of you descend from the great Chacham that we happen to be speaking about over here, please, I'm urging everyone, please don't hesitate, learn more about them. Please, if you know information and we don't know, let us know. It's always great to know about great rabbis of yesteryear over here as we are trying to progress with this online encyclopedia of great rabbanim. And very interesting. So you would learn under Rav Bibbas Hashini Rabbi, the Bibbas family itself was one of the famous families, as to say, in the Jewish world. That's something definitely for sure. So that was obviously for him himself a massive, massive pleasure and honor. That will be okay. So we are a community also. If you descend from any of the great rabbis that we are speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information. And if you are not learning anything about great rabbis of yesteryear, come start learning with us. We are learning every week and taking it something seriously, going really from strength to strength, and just improving the whole time. So how important is that all of us, we make progress with education and so on and so forth on the great rabbis of yesteryear. So we spoke about Rabbi Ohaliav Ohana, a great rabbi of yesteryear over here, and there's information featured about him, I think, in various places, if I'm not mistaken. So it's something I definitely have to point out over here. It happens to be he himself shares the Hilula as the same day as Rav David Sabach, which I think also was on this specific date, if I'm not mistaken. So we spoke about a great rabbi. So please, if you haven't subscribed yet, I'll appreciate it if you do. And let's know more about great rabbis of yesteryear and go from strength to strength. Have a great day, and thanks.